Too many houses, not enough buyers. That's been the story of the Las Vegas market. But why? Why are we not seeing enough buyers? And why are we seeing too many houses? Well, one of the big reasons we're not seeing enough buyers is because of affordability. Duh, right? Those first-time home buyers, the kind of bedrock of the market where you're going to see most of the sales happen typically, it's not happening. Those lower prices, those lower price range for first-time home buyers and the affordability that's usually there where people can afford a home in the most numbers, they're just not buying in those territories. You're seeing that's where we're seeing the lowest amount of sales. Strangely enough, as you go up in the luxury market, you're actually seeing fairly healthy luxury market. So a little bit of a tale of two worlds here happening, but those sellers that can't sell, well, those sellers are also not in this state and they're buyers. So we're talking about buyers from California that would like to be buyers here. They're sellers there and they are not able to sell their properties. So we're going to talk about that and the mentality that's going on, the two different mentalities of what the sellers are doing and why this will help you if you're a buyer, if you're thinking about buying, whether it's now or if you're just looking for the collapse, the mega collapse in the future. Maybe some of the pieces I'm putting together will make you believe that's going to happen. Or maybe you're just going to see the stability that is there. I don't know. We'll see. Let me know what you see when you watch this video. And by the way, I'm Rob HAU with Elite Realty. I'm all about houses and you. So now you know how to buy or sell a home in Las Vegas, Nevada. I've been here doing this for 16 years, so I'm ready for you when you are. I don't care how you get a hold of me. Just get a hold of me when you're ready. Let's dive in, folks. I got some numbers that are real facts, just straight factual numbers of what's happened here. And I'm going to jump right to total on market and why this matters. Because, well, when you have too many houses, you want to know how much inventory is there. What does that mean? What is too many? Well, we peaked. I look at the 7-day average every day, and we had a peak a few days ago at 11,255. My previous video that I did, which is not that long ago, beginning of the month, was at just above 11,000. So we've jumped up, well, at least on this date, it went up, 250 properties. And now today it's at 11,197. Why this is significant is because you're seeing a little bit of a surge and then a pullback. Surge, pullback. This is typical for this time of year as far as not as much inventory coming on. This is if you're a seller, if you're somebody who's looking for values to stay more firm. These are good signs because you're not seeing overrun real estate market. In other words, you're not seeing tons and tons of inventory continue to pile on. We were definitely seeing more inventory surges earlier in the year and through the summer. But now we're getting to more of a traditional time where sellers don't like to put their properties on market as much. They're going to wait till spring or early in the year. And we're going to talk about, is that a good idea? These sellers, they have kind of two mentalities right now. The ones that want to get out while they can. Let's get out, and let's get out when it's still good. Even though the median price dropped by 10,000, you're still talking about only 15,000 off the record high for median price in Las Vegas, Nevada. So record high was 485, and we finally saw some drops. We're now down to 470. Okay, I do expect more softening in that area. I do expect that we will see next month's median price drop again. And part of that is because I can see what the sellers are doing. And if I'm a buyer, this is what I want to know. Who are my best targets? Of course, you're looking for a property that you can love, but I think many of the buyers out there right now are also looking for a deal. They're looking to find a seller who will give them a deal. And at one point, several days ago, we had 1,353 price decreases. That's well over 10%. That's of the total inventory on market. 1,353 people dropped their price. Today, it was 1,138, so closer to that 10% mark. But you're seeing that you have quite a bit there, but still only about 10% of the market that's dropping their price and getting serious about selling their home. Some of these properties that are coming on are going to be priced right and ready to sell. That's my advice to any seller. I think you should be listing at or below market value. What that market value is certainly when you look at something like Zillow, depending on if it's right or not, Zillow's not always correct. But if you're looking at those evaluations and saying, okay, that's what it's saying, but many times it's looking at the sales that have happened months ago. We have just not had a ton in some of these areas of town. You just aren't seeing a lot of sales. So you really got to be able to say, okay, what is my true value right now? Really put it at or below what that true value is. Now, if you need professional help on that, and many of us do, I would certainly count on it if I was selling, if I wasn't in this business. I just don't think you do something as big as sell your home and make up your mind without a professional on your side. So make sure that you're speaking to the right people about what your true value is, and then put it at or below that. Below is suggested, I think, because really, if you've got a property that is really going to stand out, you might get buyers that actually understand that, and they're going to fight for your property. You might even get, it's not totally off the charts here, to be able to get multiple offers. Okay, if you're priced well enough, you will get attention in this market. But as I've been saying, buyers are held up on selling their homes. So we have this, not enough buyers because buyers from California, buyers from out of state, they are having trouble selling their properties and getting over here. And that is always a big portion. Vegas has always been a bit of a transient town, and we've got people coming and going, but mostly coming here from other states. And the ones that are trying to go, if they have a good reason to leave Las Vegas, they're the ones that are going to give you that deal. They need to get it done. They need to get out of here. But I'm seeing that, some of these sellers, they're either in that, we're going to take the ball and go home. In other words, we don't have to sell. We're going to not play this game right now. Or they're getting out while they can. That feeling of like, I better cash out while I can before this market gets worse. And there is a possibility of that. What do you think? Do you think this market's going to get worse ahead? I'm going to tell you what I think right now, that I think that in the springtime is when you're going to see a lot more inventory coming on. And there is a potential for basically what we're seeing right now to continue, but yet with more surging of inventory coming on. And that, if that happens and there's still not enough buyers to pick that inventory up, that is when you can start seeing some of these sellers crack and decide they want to get this done. And then you're going to see everybody doing it at the same time, which would be definitely a much softer market. Will that happen? So far, that has not been the case for many years in any spring at all. It would be the complete opposite of any spring, but I am saying that it is possible. So what you are doing when you're watching this and wondering how you can get in and when your deal is and what that means to you, you're taking a bet that maybe later, in other words, in 2026, that you're going to see better deals on the market for you. I'm a little torn on that, but I do think there is a possibility that we're not going to see the usual spring until we get a little closer, and or I see a lot more inventory coming on. I can't make the claim that it's going to be, just a super great market where you're going to get all these price decreases in the springtime. Another thing that's holding sellers up, contingent upon sale. You can't do it right now. You got 10 of them on the market. In all of Las Vegas, we're showing we only have 10 sellers that were willing to sell their property as a contingency. In other words, the buyer still has to sell their home before you can sell yours to them. Okay, so very low on the contingencies. That, in a more stable market, you would see more sellers being willing to accept those contingencies. I think sometimes they're going to do some creative stuff to make sure that they can still get something out of the deal if it falls apart. So if you want to talk about the ways to do that, there are several ways to do that. I have been able to get some success in that territory if I have the right seller and buyer that are willing to make it happen. Now, luxury has remained extremely stable. Luxury properties, this is why it's like, wow, okay, you got to not a lot of people buying in the lower price ranges, which is usually the bedrock of what we're going to see, and yet you still have fairly robust sales happening in the luxury market. We are at 1,301 on market right now as far as million plus properties, $1 million and more properties. That is a number that has been slowly going up, but it's really remained pretty stable. I have clients that are in the luxury market and they're still having trouble finding what they're looking for, and certainly finding the deals that they would like to see, a better deal out there where a seller's willing to take a little bit off the price and such. Many of those sellers are going to be the more stubborn. They just don't feel like they have to give a deal. But just remember what you're doing, sellers, right now. If you don't price right and price to sell, you may be just not in the market that works for you. Because those who are out there are deal shoppers. You have a lot of deal shoppers. They may not want to make an offer unless it really is a deal for them. The few who want to buy a house right now, those are a big part of them. And then you have the even fewer that are ready to rock. They really need to make it happen and buy your property. So if you are priced right and priced to sell, those are your buyers. The only problem is that you don't have a lot of them. So sometimes sellers wonder, they get an offer and they wonder, is this the moment I should take? Should I take this offer and run with it? If it's your first offer, you might want to consider that. Often that is going to be the best one. And I've seen it happen so much where a seller just kind of doesn't really go for that first offer, and it ends up being the best thing by a lot that they could have gotten. So be careful out there, sellers. Buyers, as it's been said many times by me lately, you are on the clock. I do think that this end of the year, when we look at what's happening with new builds, oh, by the way, sellers, you should listen to this too. New builds out there are, I'm inundated with emails from these builders. They are trying to give deals like crazy, especially in certain areas. Okay, so they're incentivizing like crazy, probably more than we have seen. Actually, not probably, more than we have seen in years. And I think that might continue a little longer than it did the last time they were giving incentives, because they know they need to attract those few buyers out there. So if you're a seller, you need to do the same thing. And now if you're a buyer, you need to pay attention to what's happening there, what you can expect or what you want to see. If you see it at a new home build that they're offering these things, maybe some of these resales will give you a similar type structure in a contract. Okay, again, we can talk about that. So when you're ready, please give me a call. We will go over all the details that we need to know and find you the best property out there and that works for you when you are ready. So thank you for watching this video, everyone. I hope you enjoyed it and I hope you get a lot out of it. I really am just doing my best to educate you on your journey to selling or buying a home in Las Vegas, Nevada. Again, I'm Rob HAU. I'm all about houses and you. So now you know how when it's time to sell or buy a home in Las Vegas, Nevada. Have a great week, everybody.